type of experiences which Indian states, different kind of projects they have seen, and what kind of failure or success they have seen in their operation, so that actual long-term assessment can be done on what kind of system exactly Mizoram or nearby states, northeastern states are actually up to. To start my presentation, what exactly DDG has done so far and what kind of model we have seen so far. There's a lot of, I'll not say it's a failure model, but yes, the success is not so well taken into system as of now. So we've seen a lot of disconnect between different policy at present and policy making regime what is currently at there in system. On central level, we see if you take a picture of India as a whole, then 16.1% of Indian villages are still unelectrified, and over 158 million of households in India are still waiting for a single bulb to lit in their home. So that is something not so good, and but that is truth. Apart from that, there's DISCOM universal service or supply obligation, which is still by and large restricted to urban or semi-urban kind of setup, where actual inroads into rural setup is not so far because of a legacy issue, because of issues of inefficiency which they try to avoid, and there's no incentive actually to reduce the power supply in rural areas. So that's why they're more sticking to urban supply and other thing. Apart from that, there's another factor which is very prominent, is political compulsion. Because of that, you need to work on supply, 100% supply during elections, and you need to have a supply for agriculture season, monsoon, apart from monsoon. So that is something is not actually helping DDG, or it has not actually helped so far the DDG to grow up. What exactly DDG can be evaluated, a different kind of setup, different kind of methodologies are there in present, because many studies, many success stories are around. So maybe to start with a small rural electrification technology, and technology, when I'm talking of technology, it may be anything, right from biomass to micro hydel, mini hydel, and wind, hybrid biomass. So those are models available with us, which we have to evaluate and see what exactly suits our terrain, our geology, our social this thing. Then the whole RET discussion, because we have to first evaluate the process and the nuts and bolts of RET, what kind of system we are looking at, the minimum options we have to evaluate, and then based on that, if it is successful, it may lead to a bigger off-grid kind of model, where you actually go and establish a off-grid model to establish that yes, there is a parallel distribution. Do not take my word in totality, but it will be a kind of parallel distribution where your local IPP or local vendor or local NGO will be providing electricity to your household, and that will actually lead to a bigger involvement, and it will be taking care of a network development from DISCOM point of view to rural masses, because there is a social upliftment and there's an actual need felt, and many people have actually felt that this power is required to establish that yes, most of our grid solutions are around, and it will add to a tail end generation, it will add to more of a reactive power also into system. So that's how it will actually be decided. Then exactly what we are looking at from biomass is mostly predominantly it will be from 4 kind of fuel mixes, where we need to see what exactly we are looking at. Maybe it can be a waste, it can be energy crop, it can be agriculture waste, it can be agro-industrial waste. So these are, I'm not going much into details because of time limitations and all, but this is a broader level of framework which we need to decide at this point of time to see what exactly framework we are looking at when we talk of our own city, our own local community for which we are looking to develop these kind of projects. Then this generation types may vary from local household to a group of household to a megawatt model, which will cater to a load of a small group of villages, a group of community. I've taken up a case study on 4 existing type of biomass model which is running in India. First is MNRE supported VESP project, which will be village electrification program, and then there is a berry which is running in Karnataka, then 2 models from Bihar, which is husk power, which is very well taken into various level of discussion, and within biomass industry also the model, the actual case studies are moving in and around that. And there is a Desi power system, which is again a small rural based community initiative which is to be discussed today. On broader level, if you see on managerial aspect of power plant, not on implementation side but on managerial side, if you see what kind of system on a holistic mode you are looking at to develop, I have tried to show you what kind of generation, distribution and consumer involvement, the total involvement can be actually replicated into a success of a model. The model can be of typically 4 types, which is first is completely government owned, which will be very old system of that government is implementing a project because of a number of challenges and a number of forces working behind. They're reluctant, they're not so keen to develop, but then also they have to develop because they are government. Then there is a franchising model, which is a government and local bodies, a kind of PPP mix where local bodies help to develop these kind of projects. And then there is independent model, which mostly we like IPPs are into and we are doing. And then there is a vendor end model where mostly I have categorized this because this is mostly a solar based model where small solar ventures are nowadays picking up to provide ready-made battery, charged battery for household uses on per day basis, rotation basis. If you see on major level this thing, on generation side you see the total, the ownership changes on every part, and then what kind of the red, blue and black arrows you see, this is basically the red arrows show that there is a change of electricity from generating company to distribution company. Company, if I'm talking of company, it's not exactly Discom which is there into picture, but it can be an NGO, it can be a your local society help group or a smaller group which is there to actually distribute to end consumer. So these changes can be either by actual sale of electricity to those so-called or quasi distribution setups, and then there will be a change of free flow of electricity. The change of electricity can be on barter arrangement also, where I as an end user provide fuel and based on that fuel I take up my electricity. So these models are there into setup, and various studies are in and around existing in India also. On very detailed note, I have presented a single slide of each kind of model so as to give you a brief picture of what exactly it is. On MNRE scheme, which is quite a government-owned scheme where they provide 90% subsidy and 10% is either from your local involvement and local captive funding and all. In that, this program is basically for any unelectrified villages which has got 50 to 100 household or over. This program also emphasizes on energy security at village level. This program is same 90% subsidy I have told. In this, basically the social upliftment is a big cause to take up these kind of model by government, and this has not seen so far any major success in India. However, this scheme was flagship scheme of MNRE, but if you see practically implementation, yes, there are challenges and there is issues in it. Then there is a biomass energy for rural India project, which is a flagship project based out of Tumkur, and it was with a local 24 panchayat has been involved to get fuels to those that power plant, which was community owned power plant, and it was basically a UNDP supported project. This is by and large a mixed kind of success model where we have seen actually development of NGOs, community-based initiative, community-based skill development in and across those 24 districts of Tumkur. Then there's an example of Desi Power, which I have mentioned from Bihar. It was basically to cater load of local population. This was again based on biomass energy plant, biomass based plant, and this was directly done with NGO. This was some of first kind of initiative which was taken up by NGO level people to start getting into generation mode, or so-called helping around people within the community to have reach to or to have access to electricity in and around that. And there are also winners of World Bank Global Development Marketplace competition, which shows that this model is again something which needs attention while structuring a macroscopic view of the project, what we are looking at as of now. Then there's another successful model is Husk Power model, which is based on local community involvement, and the fuel was from community, collected by community, and a project was set up with a commercial value to electricity sold to those end consumers who are actually helping them in providing fuels. So it was the basic idea of Husk was to structure two pricing contracts basically. So they have they are now successfully running with two kind of pricing standard, one for basic lighting and 1 or 2 point of small load for mobile and all application charging, which is very common these days. And then there's a 275 to 278 rupees concept where you pay 275 rupees per month fixed, and a fixed load of two bulb, one light, maybe for a home of 2 rooms to 3 rooms are people base of 5 to 6 people can be catered by them. This is a very successful model. I mean, it is not very sure what kind of success it will have in non-rice husk dominated places like Mizoram, where it is more of a bamboo and agro-based community. So that is something we need to see and evaluate. If you go through the summary, the basic, I've just tried to put what all aspects from plant size to what kind of plant size it may go up to. Very Karnataka was something exceptional, and it may go up to a megawatt scale model to cater large number of communities in and around, large number of people surrounding the project. And then there's also option of grid connectivity with these kind of model where you actually export the surplus power or surplus quantum available from those sales, and it can be on month-to-month basis, or it can be the nuts and bolts, or actually what kind of sale arrangement. Those things can be detailed out and can be seen more details. Then if you see all together, to my understanding, to our understanding, basic model of a fixed cost mixed with local community development is really workable model in India. I'm not very sure of actual implementation part when it comes to local in northeastern states. But yes, by and large in northern state and western region, this kind of model is a successful model which definitely needs more detailing and attention. If you look for future, there's not many disconnect within system, within community, within government agencies. Various government agencies are announcing various features, various flagship programs, but they actually do not mingle around with each other. So definitely there's a need of partnership kind of model framework, which is very much required to develop a joint mechanism or a single kind of agency mechanism where you develop a single agency to look into these kind of issues and to implement those programs rather than just making those policies for name purpose. Then there's a need to shift the focus from rather supplying from only energy excess to actually getting into more service oriented, where you are supplying a quality power for a number of hours, fixed number of hours, rather than a power which can be intermittently provided to you at their will. So that shift is very much required into rural energy setup, and this should be made center point for any DDG project. And then there's a need of developing a hybrid project, hybrid subsidy schemes, which will be part of your capital subsidy, which is still at present it is prevalent. And there should be some generation-based incentive also included into these kind of mechanisms, so as to induce more number of private attention into this sector, more number of private people, IPPs, those fellows who are having money to implement those who have willingness to put these kind of system will come forward. They will come forward certainly. And then there has to be a reliable power supply and willingness to pay from customers basically. So willingness, there's something which is a hidden success mantra for any community-based project. There should be willingness, and there should be, because paying, I don't think so there's a paying problem, there's a paying capability problem. 100 rupees, 250 rupees, if you can afford a SIM card and a phone, you can afford electricity also. Lastly, I would like to conclude my whole presentation that a bottom-up approach, which is still, which is there as a system, it is not something I'm talking of something new, but a holistic development for society has to be imbibed into that kind of setup. So a bottom-up approach for a DDG development for community, for rural masses, has to be for a complete socio-economic development of states or local community has to be there. Lastly, on very humorous note, if Amitabh Bachchan thinks that rural economy wants some growth, then definitely we should also look into it. Thank you.